Hello, world, and welcome back to another transit chart reading from Beyond the Matrix. My name's Sarah, and today I'm going to be looking at the full moon that's coming up. This is actually happening on the 7th or possibly on the 8th. Yeah, depending on where you are in the world, it could already be the 8th by the time this happens, but for Central Standard Time Zone in in North America, it's going to be on the 7th, which is interesting to me because it's the day of Pearl Harbor in 1941. And that is also 2 days after my granny was born. When I see December 7th, my mind goes to Pearl Harbor. I didn't stay long on the Pearl Harbor chart, but what I did gather is that Mars having a big role in the performance. The sun was in the first house. Mars is in the fifth house. Jupiter is sextile to Mars. And not only that, but Mars is trine to the sun and Chiron. Chiron, the sun, and Mars in fire signs. And with that sextile to Jupiter from Mars, it's big, it's expansive. It was a very prominent Mars on that day. And here we have a very prominent Mars with our full moon. Doesn't mean that themes will be reflected. Uh, you know, that's just the frame from which my mind thinks because I've attached some sort of special meaning to this date because it's connected to me. My granny was born 2 days before this event. So if it's relevant to you in that way too, then, you know, that's the energy that I kind of feel from it. There, every person's going to draw their own associations from what the archetypes mean because we're trying to understand it through our body, not logically, not through the mind. When we understand things through the body, you have to come to the answer naturally. There's no way to find it. So, and a lot of times that's just going to be we're going to live through it and feel it and then know what that particular arrangement is like, but it's always refining that description of what these two mean together. Because it could be similar to Mars trine the sun and Chiron in fire signs. That could be very similar to Mars moon. And so you kind of start to refine for yourself what the plot line is. And I want to just add that we're making this meaning, this is tracking something symbolically. There's no doubt that the planets will move in this very predictive way. The question is, what are we sensing? What is true? What is patterns of thought that are affected by patterns of behavior? And I really think that a lot of this initial spiel is from the energy of this full moon, confronting those kinds of questions. For the full moon, it's going to happen at 16 degrees and 1 minute. See the sun and the moon at 16 degrees and 1 minute, exactly opposite one another. In the signs of Gemini for the moon and Sagittarius for the sun. So we have fire and air. And earlier I was talking about the moon with emotion, so that's the water. That's kind of like maybe it's the water to put it out. We'll see. But with the moon in the air sign Gemini, Gemini is very cerebral, very logical, very intellectual. That can also describe early childhood education and local community in this kind of siblings, neighbors, cousins, just the small group, how we connect and communicate. And if the moon is representative of our, way we handle emotions, I would say Gemini is a very creative and playful sign for a moon sign, but it can also be very quick to change. This is a mutable sign. So these signs are preparing for change. They're like moving through a transition phase, knowledgeable about how to prepare under pressure, the pressure of change. That means that this isn't steady like Taurus. This is flighty. It's an air sign. So the Gemini moon has the potential to have sudden outbursts or a change of personality. This is like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And this is like the Joker, low key. With Mars there, it seems to be engaging something primal, some sort of instinct. And so to bring all of that together with Gemini, Moon, and Mars, well, Mars has been going through retrograde and is about to complete that retrograde cycle. It's going to station at 8 degrees Gemini and then turn back around and hit this point again. But Mars has spent a very long time in Gemini, and it's getting a little frustrating. There's been something on the back burner that maybe needs to get stirred up a little bit because it's just been sitting back there for so long that it's almost going to burn at the bottom if it doesn't erupt. That's descriptive of the environment that we're in, like the matrix that is truly there. There is truly a matrix that we live in the sublunary sphere. There is a medium within which we are contained. That's the moon. Wild, primal. That's what Moon Mars together is. With Gemini, it's playful, it's a trickster, it's mischievous, it's deceptive, manipulative. So, first, I'm going to read from Robert Hand a little bit about Gemini, and then I'll transition into reading from Ren Butler to describe the moon and Mars together. So, I'm going to be reading here from Robert Hand. Gemini is probably the most perfectly mutable of all mutable signs, because there is something inherently mutable about air. Like the wind, the nature of Gemini is to move rapidly from place to place, covering everything it encounters, but perhaps too rapidly to get a deep impression of anything. Preceding Cancer, the first water sign, Gemini is not yet aware that there are deeper aspects of reality that are not immediately amenable to logic and rational analysis. It understands quickly but does not empathize. It learns quickly but does not develop that deep feeling of understanding the world that enables some people to live skillfully without really having to think. Gemini's compensation for this is its speed and curiosity. It is the first sign to concern itself with the relationship of various elements in the environment. It does not evaluate these relationships, nor does it particularly concern itself with its own relationship to them. It merely wants to know what is going on out there. One aspect of Gemini that has not been stressed in the literature is that it is a sign of game playing and trickery. It loves card games and mentally oriented board games, and it also enjoys games in the sense of complicated social maneuvers. Gemini's tricks are not intended so much to deceive or misrepresent as they are mental activities that Gemini enjoys. Unfortunately, Gemini's lack of empathy and any real understanding of feelings may cause it to hurt others where no hurt was intended. He specifically mentions that planets concerned with feelings, emotions, and sensitivity are the ones most negatively affected by Gemini. Among these are the Moon and Neptune. The reason being is that, being quick with emotions can be literally diagnosed as a condition. So, not to say that people with this placement all have a mental condition, but it could just be provoked to responding that way. I'm going to read Ren Butler in the Archetypal Universe about Moon and Mars. Now, keep in mind those ideas about Gemini that I was mentioning just before. Moon Mars principles, inner strength and determination, vitality and passion, an engaging and stimulating emotional life, ardent impulses to bond and connect, energy and activity in one's home, a tendency towards sharp reactions and outbursts, fierce and brash attitudes, family conflicts and anger, characters and themes, qualities of emotional directness and sincerity, frankness and candor, an emotional commitment to one's actions, feelings of purpose, fighting spirit, defiant swagger, inner strength, a healthy flow of emotional energy and vigor, vitality and passion, ardent impulses to bond and connect, constructive energy and activity in one's home, urges to work at home, vigorous and protective mothers, active work for one's community. Quote, and so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. End quote. JFK, descriptive of the moon trining Mars. Emotional impact, catharsis of strong feelings. There's a few sections here where he presents some really wonderful archetypes. The first one is nature, the arts. So the maternal protective instinct, and in cinema, storylines which involve emotional shocks, screaming, blood feuds, civil war, actors who play energetic, feisty, gutsy, peppy, sparky, spunky, snap and crackle, saucy, provocative, and excitable characters. Also brash, testy, moody, cranky, edgy, ill-tempered, hot-headed, volatile, explosive, and tempestuous characters. In archetypes and spirituality, tales of sibling rivalry such as Set and Osiris, Cain and Abel, the family murders in the Orestia, the deep opening and cleansing effect of emotional catharsis. In the dream images and themes, at these times, the lunar aspects of feminine, family, and community are merged with Mars's action, assertion, and drive. People may dream about spurs to action by women, dynamic community events, family sports, or protective instincts. They may encounter scenes of family squabbles or disputes, such as spouses slapping each other's faces, aggressive youth, or sibling rivalry. Other dreams include family accidents, high-strung animals in one's home, or militant partisan symbols such as the Confederate flag. People can dream about females who embody young qualities such as fierce and strong women, female soldiers, women out running, or girls kicking a ball. Finally, these archetypes intensify the emotions in people's dreams in scenarios of uncontrollable sobbing or even screaming, sometimes audible to others near the dreamer. These are a sign that healing, emotional release is now possible. And finally, I just want to read the themes in deep self-exploration. People with Moon Mars transits tend to feel less censoring of their emerging process, which helps to increase the velocity of their emotional catharsis. The unconditional support of sitters can encourage people to work through issues around conflict, anger, and aggression in their early lives. So I didn't lie, even in the book, which obviously I've referenced before, these themes of the moon with Mars are intense. So that's why, Gemini, like I said, cousins, siblings, neighbors. I mean, it's the holiday season. Here we are at the beginning of December, and we get this kind of family feud energy. So just want to watch that. Hold space as much as you can. Be prepared to hold space. So that could include things like meditation. You could use this Mars energy to really get in shape, work out your body, expend some of that Martian energy before this full moon. I think those are the things we're going to benefit from as we prepare for December 7th. So I'm going to come back and talk about the rulers of this, which is going to help describe kind of the conditions a little further, because it's going to say, how's the homeowner doing? And I think if you've ever rented a home, you can understand how the conditions of the homeowner have a lot of impact on the home itself. And I'm saying home because I'm referencing the houses within which this is taking place. So I'm not going to be able to describe much about the themes of each house, but I will be able to say the homeowner of Gemini is under these conditions. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how Mercury is going to handle this situation, because that's going to be helpful too. There's another element of our mind, I think, that we can accompany us at the round table between the moon and the sun and Mars. So I hope this has been helpful, and I'll be back very soon to talk about Mercury and Jupiter. So I hope you'll join me then.